We moved in the winter when it gets dark here early and the asphalt smells of salt. Our window overlooks the courtyard well, a narrow strip of sky between the balconies, the clatter of dishes, foreign languages. In the evening, I put the kettle on, lean on the windowsill, and think how strangely quickly something foreign becomes your own when there is a person you love nearby. We've been living here for 8 months now, and I know by heart what time the neighbor upstairs turns on the shower and the guy from the third entrance, what brand of cigarettes he smokes. My documents are neatly folded in the closet, next to his gray sweatshirts. On the refrigerator, there is a magnet with the date. Our date. Until recently, this word warmed like a lamp over a table. Now it illuminates the cracks. We got engaged in 2024. Not one of those engagements with garlands and four-tiered cakes. We agreed right away. A registration at the magistrate's office, then dinner for those who want to come and can pay for their plate. Practical, honest, without a noose of debt around my neck, I had just found a job that I loved. After a series of jobs where bosses confused motivation with humiliation. I was in line for a promotion. I rented an apartment, learned to buy myself flowers on Fridays and not make excuses for it to anyone, and he got an offer abroad. Good, too good not to try. And yes, I think it sped up the moment with the ring. He did everything our way, without an audience, without kneeling in the square. He just sat down next to me in the kitchen, put his palm on mine, and, as if he was going to ask if he should buy some milk, he exhaled. Stay with me there everywhere. I had known him for almost 6 years. I knew his laugh when he was nervous and his habit of fiddling with the zipper on his jacket. I also knew that not everything was smooth between us. The first time I left was because of his mother. It was as if she was pressing buttons on a remote control, and his decisions clicked like channels. Let's go to my aunt's. She has a free room. Don't take this job. It's too far to travel. We'll be at my place on Saturday. We're having a family dinner. He didn't say Mom said, but it was felt like the smell of washing powder in his things. I then said, I love you, but I won't live with a third person in a couple. I left. He returned in a strange and funny way. He stood in the rain near my office with a thermos of cocoa, sent photos of funny dogs, came on Saturdays for 5 minutes, just to see you. I melted after a month, the second time I left for a year because of his frivolity, and one night that I don't want to remember in detail. Alcohol, a steering wheel, a call in the middle of the night. I'm fine. A sigh on the phone from the doctor. My father burned so many holes in my childhood with his drinking that they still bleed cold. I said never. He stopped drinking to get me back. He didn't swear. He did slowly, awkwardly, honestly. We continued to talk even when I was already trying to go on dates with others. The heart still remained on his shelf between programming books and an old photo album. So when this letter arrived with the job and then the ring on the chain, I still don't like it on my finger, allergy. I said yes. We agreed on a wedding, a maximum of 30 people, simple, warm, without extras. My loved ones are a few chairs with empty seats. He has a noisy family, dozens of cousins, second cousins, endless uncles and aunts. I wanted my 8 seats not to be drowned out by the chorus of other people's voices. I hate logistics. When it comes to myself, I can organize a corporate event, a graduation, a gala dinner for strangers, and burn out on invitations to my own event. Mom heard and said, give me everything. You are there. I am here. I know people. In a week and a half, she did the impossible. She found a small estate where the owner included in the price garlands of light in the courtyard, a gift to the newlyweds, agreed with a photographer, an old friend of my second parents, who are like family to me, and with a DJ who for some reason likes the songs I grew up listening to. She sent me links, price lists, and a video where the wind ruffles the white curtains in the gazebo. Look, daughter, I will cover everything. Your task is to choose a dress. We were sitting on the floor with him in the evening with printouts scattered around. He was smiling, running his finger over the photo where there were candle paths. He had that look when he is truly happy. Soft eyes, shoulders slightly slumped, like a person who has finally taken off his backpack. It's great, he said. We'll have it very our way. I nodded, and after a pause added, your parents said to help with money. Please ask how much they mean. I don't want to hang around in uncertainty. He smiled wryly. I know. I'll ask. And he didn't ask. I reminded him gently, Darling, just clarify. He nodded. Then he said, I'll tell you on the weekend. Tomorrow and sure after we call. The weekend came as usual, with a supermarket, a movie, and a vacuum cleaner, and then Saturday happened, which I now call in my mind the weekend from hell. He dialed them himself on speakerphone so that I could hear everything. His mother picked up the phone briskly. Son, what's going on? He happily told them, Mom, everything's almost ready. Mom's friends helped, such and such a date, such and such a place, a small format, 30 people, cozy. At the word 30, her voice switched to metallic notes that I remember from the first day we met. What? What? 30? Who is this for? For your friends. And where is our family? We'll only get 50 of our own? How do you imagine this, son? Uncle Naeem must be there, and Farida with everyone, and cousin Salma, and... She listed how the sheet reads. I looked at him. He involuntarily began to rub his eyebrow. As always when he is tense, I felt a wave rising inside me. Hot, unpleasant. I tried very hard to speak calmly. We discussed the format. Small. I have 8 seats, my mother, the pastor, and his wife. That's already 10. The rest are yours, but only up to 30. It's offensive to the family, she responded sharply. Everyone will think that you excluded them. Besides, the place you picked there? We can do better. I'll find a room where everyone can fit. If you want to participate, you could... I swallowed. You could have joined earlier. We invited you to discuss, and also... I don't want to see some of the people you named around because I was addressed with words that are impossible to forget. I didn't say the word racism, but it hung in the room like smoke, those jokes at family dinners when someone would squint slyly. So does the white girl play by the rules now? Those half questions, half hints from which my neck would hurt for whole nights. He would always squeeze my hand under the table and then whisper, Forgive me, they are old school. That was wrong, he said hoarsely into the phone, getting ahead of his mother. And we also chose the format based on the budget. Mom, you said to help. How much exactly? Pause, I almost smiled. Finally. We'll see, she said. But first, change the place. It's impossible. 30 people. And anyway, we can have another separate evening for our family, and it will be, well, something intimate. For her people. Her pause on the word her was like a splinter. After the call, he was silent for a long time, staring at the printout with the candles. The muscles on his cheekbones moved like chewing gum. Then he said, I don't want to disappoint her. And me? I asked so quietly that I heard myself inhale. Do you want to disappoint me? We agreed, we discussed it. You know why this size is important to me. You know how I worry when my 8 chairs are lost in your 50. You know what they said. And yet you're still saying it now? This. He closed his eyes and clasped his fingers. At such moments he became small, like a boy who stands between 2 doors and does not know which one to knock on. I came up and squatted down opposite him so that I was at his face level. Tell me honestly, do you want a different wedding? I want for everyone to be well, he said. It won't be good for everyone. This is a wedding for 2 people, not a vanity fair for 100 people. If Mom wants a big celebration, let her make it her anniversary. I won't let her control our lives. He looked up. I saw there fatigue, love, and fear, the 3 colors with which he paints his world when it comes to her. I knew that look. I knew how such conversations end if you let them slide. That's how the little concessions began, which formed the new layout of our apartment, with 1 more door and 1 more key that I don't have. I won't, I said, and for the first time that evening, my voice sounded as firm as a board. I won't adjust our day to other people's demands, especially if those people didn't respect me. I've been through, Mom said once. I won't go through it again. He sighed. Somewhere in the yard, a door slammed. Water ran down the pipe. The kettle clicked and boiled. I didn't move. I need you to choose, I said, not taking my eyes off him. Not between love for your mother and love for me. Between adulthood and this. Between us as a couple and whatever Mom decides. He blinked as if from the light. His lips trembled, the phone on the table vibrated briefly. Mom. His hand reached for the screen out of habit. Don't take it, I asked. He froze with his palm outstretched, as if he was holding an invisible rope on which everything depended. Choose, I said. He opened his mouth to answer, and at that moment a strange ringing sounded behind the door, sharp and insistent, as if an alarm. The bell rang again, briefly and demandingly. He exhaled, stood up, and walked to the door. I remained standing by the table, as if I was afraid to move the glass, as if that would keep something in us in place. A soft delivery was heard from behind the door. Paper rustled, someone's footsteps retreated down the stairs. He returned with a flat box, tied with a ribbon, to which was pinned a white postcard with curved letters. From Mom. We exchanged glances. For some reason, he smiled guiltily, like a boy caught bringing home a puppy. He put the box on the table. I reached for the scissors, but my hands were dry, and my fingers wouldn't obey. The ribbon gave way gently. The lid lifted, and a wave of fragrant little things washed over us. Printing ink, vanilla flavoring, glitter. Inside were gold-colored embossed envelopes, a stack of glossy invitations with our name on them. Mine was in the feminine case, but with an extra letter. A seating chart for 80 people, painted in calligraphy, and a thin flash drive in a velvet case. Underneath all that was a letter, thick paper, neat handwriting. Children, I have taken on the responsibility to take it off your shoulders. The Saffron Hall with 120 seats is already booked for your date. The advance payment is non-refundable, but you will thank me later. I have made a guest list. They are all ours. Don't worry, dear. Yours will fit too. We will find them a table near the stage. We will buy you a modest dress without bare shoulders, as it should be. We will do it humanely. Don't disgrace the family with intimacy. Such things are not hidden. Kisses. For a second, I stopped hearing sounds in the apartment. Only letters swam like fish behind glass. Then suddenly, everything at once, the ticking of the clock, the hum of the pipe in the wall, his scattered breath. He sat down and clutched his head. She had no right to make an advance payment. She did, I said, and my voice was someone else's. Exactly what she always does. She makes a decision and presents everyone with a fait accompli. It's convenient for her to live in a world where everything is irrevocable. I was shuffling through the envelopes as if I was feeling evidence of a crime. On one of the invitations, the spelling mistake in my name was circled with a heart. I felt sick. I'll call. He stood up to go into the corridor. I held him by the sleeve. No. I'll call and ask what to do. There's nothing to ask here. This is our day, and this is a violation of boundaries. You and I just marked them out, and at that very moment someone came and nailed a sign on top saying, "Passable yard." He nodded. He dialed. I heard her lively voice on the phone, like a person who is convinced that he has done good and deserved applause. He tried to speak evenly. Mom, why the prepayment? We decided to have a small wedding. These are our agreements. But she went on the offensive easily, like a housewife in someone else's kitchen. Son, be a man, don't disgrace yourself. What small wedding? Who will you look in the eye later? And the money? It's my money, I do what I want. You will say thank you when you see everything. This is blackmail, I whispered when he took the phone away from his ear. Non-refundable advance payment. My money. Thank you later. All from the same set. He was silent. I saw his Adam's apple move. I knew this moment very well. When he is both a son and a man, and one of them is pulled back by the sleeve. At this moment, he always got tired and gave in. I went into the kitchen, turned on the kettle just to make some noise. Snow was slowly falling outside the window, sparse, wet. I thought about my mother, about how she had screwed up our lives in a week, and never once said, "You'll thank me later." She simply sent me a video of the wind fluttering the curtain and added, "If you don't like it, we'll find something else." The phone vibrated in my pocket. Mom. How are you? I was in the hall again. The lights are shining here today. It's beautiful. Don't argue, please. With him, I'm with you. I closed my eyes for a moment. Exhaled, typed, "Thank you, I'm holding on." When I returned to the room, he was standing by the window, leaning his forehead against the glass. His breath was creating a round cloud on the glass. He didn't turn around. Dad called. He spoke more quietly, said that not all was lost, that they could win back some of the money from Saffron through their friend, but Mom has already called half of the relatives. They sort of think that they invited them. I froze. This ease of intrusion, calling half the people, letting everyone know, always amazed me and his family. How can you first announce and then discuss? How can you call help something that cancels someone else's choice? They think they've been invited, I repeated, and suddenly laughed briefly and sharply. And they thought that my boundaries could be invited too? That my skin color was a topic for toasts? That my name could be mangled on invitations and surrounded by hearts? He flinched as if he had been slapped. He turned to me. There was pain in his eyes. He didn't want to see the connection between the little jokes and the big hall with 120 seats. But there was a connection. It's all one thread. I don't want you to think I'm a coward, he said almost in a whisper. It's hard for me to argue with her. Yes, she knows how to talk in such a way that He searched for the word. Feel like a bad son, but I don't want to be a bad husband. I really don't want to. Then be a good person, I answered. Not a son and not a husband. A person who knows how to say no to someone else's yes when this yes gets into your life. We can do two things if it's important to you. Here, for us. There, at least a banquet for 200 at their expense without my participation. But not the other way around. He nodded uncertainly. We sat down on the carpet, laid out a seating chart for 80 people in front of us, like a military map. Who will come from where? I circled with my finger where it said bride's table. Next to it was written with her people. In this phrase, I heard with strangers. And suddenly I felt very cold. I'm going to go for a walk, I said. I need some air. The courtyard smelled of dampness and bread. The bakery on the corner worked until night. I walked and thought about how much in our lives is decided by other people's fears. The fear of looking poor, the fear of being judged for a too small wedding, the fear of what will people say. I once got out of my own fear to leave a family where alcohol decided everything. I chose myself. Now I was again offered to exchange myself for someone else's opinion. I called my mom. She picked up on the first ring as if she was holding the phone in her hand. Mom, I said, his mom made a non-refundable advance payment for the big hall and has already invited everyone. Mom was silent for a moment. Then she said very calmly, my daughter, irrevocable is not about money, it's about principles. If you swallow now, you'll swallow again and again. If he's with you in this, no, I'm here. If necessary, we'll postpone everything. Change the date, find another place. But you don't have to go to the table where people are sitting who called you stupid because of where you were born. I stopped under the canopy. Snowflakes melted on my eyelashes. I squeezed the phone. I won't swallow it. When I returned, he was sitting on the floor in silence as if after a storm. His phone was in his hands. The screen was glowing. He looked up. I talked to Dad again. He said that if I firmly say no, he will be on our side. Mom, he sighed. Mom announced that she will fly in and sort everything out herself. Will it arrive? My ears were blocked, like on a plane. He turned the screen towards me. There was a screenshot from the messenger shining there. An electronic ticket, her name, the date and time of arrival, this Friday, and below that, a 2-minute voice message signed, let's discuss the guest list. I pressed pause, not even listening. A wave rose inside, not like the one at the beginning, not hot. Quiet, heavy water that would either displace everything or turn into ice that you could stand on. Then we have until Friday to decide, I said, looking him straight in the eye. Not words, but a decision. Because when she walks through that door, she won't be walking into the kitchen. She'll be walking into us. He squeezed the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. He hit the corner of the invitation box with his toe, and the envelopes scattered across the carpet like red leaves. And at that moment, my phone vibrated. A new message from an unknown number with an avatar of a family feast. The text was short, like an order. Welcome to the family. Below is the final list of our guests, 55 names. We are waiting for confirmation until tomorrow. Below it is a table. At the very top, in bold, "The bride's table is at the exit." I looked up at him and saw that he had received it too. We were silent, and at the bottom of the screen, another incoming message was blinking, a voice message from his mother, which he was slowly pulling up with his thumb to the play button. We sat over this table for a long time, like a problem with an asterisk, where the correct answer is the one that preserves you. I ran my finger along the lines, reading other people's names, as if tasting unfamiliar spices. "The bride's table is at the exit" is a phrase that can ruin any banquet. This is not about seating. It is about the place in the coordinate system. You will be at the door, in a draft, always at parting. "We don't agree," I said into the empty room, as if I were speaking into a microphone. "Do you hear?" He nodded. His phone kept blinking. Mom recorded a voicemail. He reached out and stopped his hand in the air, like in childhood in front of a hot stove. I saw how he wanted to press. The habit of fire was stronger than caution. I put my palm on his wrist. "Let's do it first, and then everyone else." We composed a short text. Without requests, without maybes, I dictated. He typed, "Dear ones, the format of our event is 30 guests. This decision is final. The list is made by the couple, not third parties. People who allowed themselves to make offensive statements about the bride will not be at the wedding. The prepayment for the Saffron Hall, made without approval, does not concern us. We will not go there if you want. Arrange a separate family dinner without us. Our wedding will remain intimate." He reread it and swallowed. "Tough," he said. "Honestly," I replied, "we don't need a war. We need a door that closes from the inside." We sent to the general chat a second of silence, 2-3. Then the screen flashed like a Christmas tree, Kuzin with the avatar of a baby. "Wow, how important we are." Uncle Naeem, polite. "We don't do that, but it's up to you." Some Salma, whom I didn't remember. "If you don't want a big family, why do you need our son?" And suddenly, a short message from the father. "I support the decision of the young people. A wedding is not a family council. I will come where you invite me." I exhaled the first "we are with you" from where I expected silence. We did turn on the voicemail from his mother, but not right away. First, we agreed on one thing. He would not pick up the phone if the conversation turned into shouting. He wouldn't make excuses. And most importantly, he wouldn't put me in the position of calming everyone down, because that's not my job. We repeated it like an oath, out loud. Then he pressed. Her voice was festive. It rang out. "Children, it's a holiday." Only it wasn't a bell that clinked, but a thin spoon on a glass wall. She spoke quickly, like a person who was used to holding the initiative in both hands. That Saffron was the only decent place. That your 30 was shame, not a wedding. That what insults are you talking about? She hadn't heard anything like that. That this is our money and we can't throw it away. That I'm already flying in, on Friday, and we'll discuss everything like adults without hysterics. At the end, sugar. "Sunshine, darling, don't be offended. I want everything to be beautiful. You're still young, you don't understand." "I understand," I said quietly when the recording ended. "I understand that beautiful means different things to us. For me, beautiful is when my name is written correctly on one card, and not beautiful is when, because of a non-refundable prepayment, they take away my choice." He ran his palms over his face. "I'll write to her that I'll meet her at the airport," he said after a pause. "But I won't meet her alone. If you agree together, I want her to see us." "I agree," I answered. And I felt something heavy and right moving inside me, like a wardrobe finally placed against the wall. We spent the night as if we were about to have an exam, making an if-then list. If she raises her voice, end the conversation. If she tries to give orders, bring the conversation back to our decision. If she pretends not to hear, say it again and leave. If emotional blackmail begins, "You don't respect me, I'll burn out," and all that jazz, call it blackmail and don't treat it. I wrote the points on a piece of paper, and he listened and nodded, as if repeating formulas in front of the board. Sometimes he froze, looked at one point and quietly said, "It's scary." I took his hand and answered, "Me too." He smiled crookedly. We fell asleep in the morning. For the first time in a week, I didn't see large halls or other people's names in my dreams. The morning smelled of coffee and dough. The bakery on the corner was baking croissants. He left for work, promising to return early. I stayed home and started packing my emergency suitcase, not as a threat to leave, but as a support for myself. A passport, a chain with a ring, a couple of things, a letter from my mother where she wrote, "I am with you." I put everything in a bag and put it in the closet, just to know my way out is mine. I'm not giving it to anyone. In the afternoon, I called the estate that my mother had found. The owner, the one with the warm voice, said that the date was ours. He wouldn't give it to anyone. He likes it when weddings are intimate. You can see faces there. I smiled and wrote down his words in a notebook, among the if-then points. In the evening, we met at the house and went for a walk to talk out loud about how we would talk to her. He rehearsed, "Mom, we love you, but..." "Take away the but." I stopped. "We love you. The decision has been made." He repeated it worked. Then again and again we laughed suddenly on from fear and from how unusual it is to hear your own no without an apology on the tail. On Friday, the airport greeted us with light and the smell of coffee, a boiling river of people with suitcases. The bored flash cities that now seemed closer to us than our children's yards. I caught my reflection in the glass, a concentrated face, hair pulled back, fingers clutching the strap of a bag. He stood nearby and glanced at the exit from the arrivals area as if he was waiting to go on stage. I took his hand. He squeezed it back, tightly. "When she comes out, let's hug her first," he said, "so as not to start a war." "Okay," I agreed. I wasn't against hugging. I was against hugging being a pass to the buttons on the remote. The doors parted, letting out a new batch of passengers. I always recognize her from afar, by her gait and the gesture with which she adjusts her hair. She was wearing a beige coat that fit perfectly. In her hand was a garment bag that pulled down her shoulder. Behind her was a suitcase on shiny wheels. Her face was cheerful. Her lips were covered in matte lipstick, like for a wedding. She noticed us, smiled broadly, and confidently crossed the line. "Children!" she exclaimed and stepped toward her son. He hugged her. She patted him on the back. She leaned toward me, quickly kissed me on the cheek, and without letting go of my shoulder, pulled away to look, to assess. I held my gaze. Something like satisfaction flashed in her eyes, like that of a person who had come to put everything in its place. "How was your flight?" I asked. "Great." She waved it off. "We'll discuss everything now. By the way, I brought a dress, nothing extra, and documents for the hall and..." She nodded to the side, and only then did I see a woman standing half a step behind with a tablet and a folder. Thin earrings, a sleek ponytail, a black coat. On the folder, in gold letters, Saffron Events. I met his gaze. He shook his head slightly. I heard my heart pounding, right in my throat. "Who is this?" I asked, although I didn't have to ask. "Our organizer." His mother answered as easily as, "This is Salt. I brought it so as not to waste your nerves." "Darling," she turned to me, "you said you hated the organization, so don't. Let the adults do everything properly." The word adults hit my ribs like a ball in a children's shooting gallery. I looked at him. His lips twitched for a second. I inhaled sharply. "We'll go home," he said unexpectedly firmly. "We'll talk there without a team." The organizer smiled politely, as if she didn't care where the hall was, as long as there was a budget. Mom raised an eyebrow, but nodded. We went out into the cold. While we were pushing her suitcase to the parking lot, she managed to ask me, "How is your, mommy's health? Oh," clarify the date and ask 5 rhetorical questions about propriety. I kept silent so as not to exhale everything onto the asphalt before the threshold. In the apartment, she immediately began looking around, like an investor at a property. "Not enough light. Why these gray pillows? The rug could be bigger." I stood by the table. Her box of envelopes was still lying there like evidence. She noticed, smiled, took one invitation, ran her fingernail over the gold embossing. "It's beautiful, isn't it? We'll fix the letter here. Don't worry, it's a trifle." "These are not trifles," I said, "and the hall is not trifles, and the guest list is not trifles. This is our decision." She turned to me, folded her arms across her chest. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not anger, but concentration. Darling, she said in the tone that people use to explain that the adults in the room are not them. You're young. You think you know everything, but the world isn't about what everyone wants. The world is about what's right. And the right thing is not to hide the wedding. The right thing is to invite the family. The right thing is not to air your dirty laundry in public. Litter is a racist joke, I answered. And the decision for us is also litter. We are not hiding anything. We are doing our own wedding. 30 people, everything. She smiled, predatory and affectionate at the same time. Are you sure that you can do anything without our help? He took a step forward and stood next to me so that our shoulders touched. We're sure, he said. We've already done everything. Mom, he said quietly, I'm sorry, but there won't be a saffron, and there won't be a big list. If you want to have a family evening, have one. We won't come. There will be 30 people at our wedding. Silence. I could only hear the dripping of the kitchen tap. The organizer shuddered as if from a draft. Mom blinked. Slowly, like a cat evaluating a jump, a storm was gathering in her gaze. From the habit of commanding, from the fear of losing face, from the fact that her son was slipping out of her hands like soap. Well, she said, if you insist on your own, then I have a surprise for you. You like surprises, don't you? She reached into her hold-all, pulled out a thin envelope and placed it on the table next to our notes. The envelope had the seal of our city magistrate on it. I felt my fingers getting cold. What is this? I asked. She smiled with the corner of her lips. This is what will solve everything faster than you can change your mind. The envelope lay between us like a small bomb with a paper fuse. We looked at it, and for a second it seemed to me that I could hear again the sound of airport doors sliding open, letting in what you didn't invite. He didn't move. I didn't either. The envelope lay between us like something you'd better not touch if you don't want it to explode in your hands. But I carefully pried the valve open with my fingernail. If it's going to explode, let it be in the light. Inside were 3 sheets of paper. The first was a notice from the magistrate for a ceremonial registration on a specific day and time, the same one for which Saffron had been booked. The second was a receipt for a service package, a live orchestra, a carpet leading into the hall, and an extended area for the formal ceremony of exchanging vows tied to a specific banquet hall. The third was a statement, filled out in neat ink. My name, again misspelled. The surname after registration box was already marked. Adopts husband's surname. I heard the blood rushing in my temples. The word accepts burned red, like agree to everything. Why did you do that? He looked at his mother as if he was seeing the woman in front of him for the first time, not from childhood photos, but from today's apartment. So that you don't rush about? She shrugged her shoulders. You yourself spoke about the magistrate. Here is the magistrate, as it should be, and we'll call people so that there is no shame. The money is mine. I disposed of it as I thought was right. And about the last name, she smiled at me softly, as if I were a schoolgirl, at someone else's child. That's how it's done here. A family is one last name. I carefully put the papers on the table and inhaled. What we rehearsed with him at night turned on by itself. Not to make excuses, not to argue with someone else's logic, not to explain 10 times what they don't want to hear. We have a different custom, I said. They accept what we decide about us. We'll discuss the last name together. We won't tie the official part to a hall that we don't need. We won't go to a place where our choice was bought with your money, Mom. He said the word, Mama. It was important. Something in my chest let go, not completely, but it took a breath. They won't give the money back, she reminded dryly. Then it will be your independent donation to the Saffron Hall. He shrugged. We won't go there anyway. The organizer with the folder took a tiny step back, as if she wanted to dissolve into the wall. Something trembled in her professional smile. It seemed she was embarrassed to be brought here like a battering ram. Okay. The mother bowed her head. Since you've decided to play the grown-ups, let's do it the grown-up way. I wash my hands of this, but know this, the family will talk about this, and you'll be the one to blame. I felt his fingers tremble slightly on my back. I was surprised by my calm smile. Let them talk. Let them at least compose toasts. The main thing is that I'm not there. And after a pause, she added, and that he doesn't sit next to me, making excuses. She lost her footing in her sentences for a second, like a person who had stepped onto a step that wasn't there. Then she pulled herself together. Okay, she said decisively, tomorrow we'll still go to Saffron and have a look. Since you're so stubborn, it'll be enough for you to see it in person. We'll go to the magistrate tomorrow, he answered calmly. We'll cancel what you've drawn up without us, and then we'll go to our place. If you want, come with us and take a look, but don't decide for us. She squinted as if from a bright light, and, to my surprise, said nothing. She just closed her garment bag and called someone, cancel the meeting at Saffron for tomorrow. Dry no emotion, just like an operational link I noted. It didn't come to blackmail and tears, yet at night he held me, and I listened to his breathing calm down. I thought that adulthood is not loud phrases, but very specific actions. In the morning we went to the magistrate. A young employee with an earring in her ear listened attentively, looked at the papers, and sighed. We do not have the right to accept applications filled out by a third party without a power of attorney. Someone here really likes quick decisions. She looked at us over her glasses. I can cancel the ceremonial registration reservation for this hall. The money will be returned partially. Half. You will not see the rest. It's okay, he said, and I felt a fold straighten out inside me. Give me back what's due. The rest is experience. The seals hit the paper like little hammers. In the column Reason for Annulment, he asked to write, at the initiative of the persons entering into the marriage, not at the request of the mother, not due to circumstances, at our initiative. I smiled, my upper lip trembled. From the magistrate we went to the estate. The owner greeted us like old friends. Tea, apple pie. Look how the light falls on the floor at noon. The wind ruffled the white curtains just like in my mother's video, and there, under the rustle of leaves, we finally approved our list. 30 chairs, 10 of them mine. From his family, his parents, his father with his quiet support, a couple of cousins whose tongues are without bile, and that's it. I understand, he said as we sat on the porch and drank tea from thick mugs. That things will be hard from now on, but I don't want to drag someone else's fears into us. I've been afraid of not being a good son for too long. I want to be a good husband, and just be myself. And I want us to look at our photographs many years later and remember our faces, not the seating chart, I replied. He chuckled and then became serious. If she breaks down, will you leave? He asked cautiously. No, I said. I'll leave if you lose your temper. If you let her decide for us again, I'll leave. And with her, let it be as it will be. She's not a part of us, and she never will be. He nodded, buried his face in my shoulder, and was silent for a long time. His eyes were tired but bright. In the evening, as she promised, she called. She didn't shout. She calmly said, I saw your cancellation. It doesn't look good, but since you're persistent, I won't stand in your way. Pause. I don't understand now, but I won't disgrace myself by running around the authorities. You do as you think. I felt the curtain coming down inside me. Not the end, but the first real scene of the play, where we assigned the roles. It was not a world in which she suddenly became different. It was a world in which we took our places. In a week, we designed everything on our camera. Mom sent a list of dishes so that it would be warm and simple. Our photographer, the one who is ours, showed a place where the grass in the garden is rolling, and there, it turns out, is the perfect light at sunset. We chose the music, quiet without hymns and carrying out the cakes to fanfares. We chose the texts of the vows, short like a breath. A couple of times there were messages from the family chat, some passive-aggressive, well, if it's convenient for them, some loud, and they don't invite us, and that says a lot. He responded once, and the same to everyone. We invite with love those who come with respect. To the rest, have a good evening. His father sent a smiley with a raised thumb and a photo of a small glass of tea, a toast in his own way. And then the day came. The morning was cool, like a glass of water with mint. I put on my dress. Not without excess, but the one in which my body breathed. Mom helped me zip up. She ran her hand over my shoulders and quietly said, Today you are like in childhood, when you first rode alone on the bus. A little scary and very right. He was waiting for me in the garden. I saw from afar how nervous he was, fiddling with a button on his sleeve, trying to joke with the photographer. But his gaze was always looking for me. I walked along a path where leaves were scattered, not a carpet, but one that the wind had invented. And at every table there were faces, faces that I knew and loved, no foreign names that made me lose my bearings. His mother arrived. I saw her entering the gate, a straight back, a neat bun, a thin chain around her neck. She walked through the garden, assessing, counting, noting. This is her look, I know it. She came up to us, hugged her son. He hugged her tightly, no longer a boy standing between the doors. She turned to me, nodded slightly. "You're beautiful," she said dryly. And a pause in which I heard how difficult it was for her. "The place is nice." "Thank you," I answered evenly, and nothing more. She made no attempt to move the chairs, change the music, or insert a toast as expected. She sat at the table with his father, and sometimes her gaze clung to me, as if to a strange picture to which one gets used. We said vows to each other, not the kind that require a stage, but the kind that can live in the kitchen above the sink. He said my name correctly, stretching out the syllables as if caressing them. I said my yes, not to the world, not to chat, not to saffron, but to him. When we exchanged rings, mine is still on a chain because it's leather, I heard my mother sigh, either resigned or just getting used to the new sound. Then there was dinner. The noise was good, low, without the need to shout over a couple. The dancing was funny, the music was the same as I grew up with. At some point, his cousin, with whom we rarely spoke, came up to me. The one without the poison, she said, "Forgive us all. Sometimes we, well, seem not to notice that people are different. Today you did it." Humanely, I nodded. I didn't make a big speech. I just thanked him. It was that little piece of humanity that is sometimes more important than a big apology. Before dessert, he stood up, raised his glass, and said, "Thank you for being with us. And for those who wanted us to be more, we will send photos later. We will send faces." People laughed. I laughed too. Somewhere off to the side. Mom smiled slightly. It seemed she didn't see the joke on principle, but she heard that the audience was on his side, and it was our audience, not Saffron. When the sun slid behind the apple trees, we went out into the garden. Memories do not like vanity, they like halftones. He leaned towards me. "Do you know what I'm afraid of?" he whispered. "What?" "That tomorrow they will again try to call all this not according to the rules. That new we must, and we don't do it that way, will begin." I looked at him and smiled. "Let them call us. We don't have to explain anything to anyone. We'll just close the door, from the inside. Like today and every time we need to." He nodded, and suddenly, like a child who finally realized that he can skate without supports, he laughed. Really freely, I laid my head on his shoulder. It smelled of apple pie and grass. Later, when the guests had left and the lights in the gazebo began to flicker more quietly, his mother came up to me. She stood a little to the side, as if she was being cautious. She said quietly, "I wanted everything to be like people have. It's always been like that for us. I can't do it any other way. But you showed today that like people have can be not about the hall." She hesitated. I didn't help her with words. Let her say it herself. "It's a difficult ladder and every step must be hers." "I don't promise that I'll be perfect," she finally said, "but I will try not to interfere, if I can, and if you tell me to stop, in advance." "We will," I answered. "And you?" I switched to you for the first time. "If you want to see us next to each other, check. It's next to you, not above." She nodded. She smiled, a tired human smile in which there were no jaws of victory, and went to her table, where his father laughed, easily, like in those chats with a glass of tea. We returned home at night. The apartment greeted us with silence and a magnet on the fridge with our date. We put flowers in a jar. He sat down on the floor, leaned his back against the sofa, and stretched out his legs. I sat down next to him, put my head on his knees. Somewhere upstairs, someone turned on the shower at their usual time. A familiar noise. I smiled at this noise. He stroked my hair and suddenly said quietly, "Thank you for not letting me become a son at our wedding." "Thank you for not remaining him," I replied. We sat for so long, talking about nothing about everything. About how sometimes non-refundable prepayments are not lines on a receipt, but the price you pay for someone else's decisions, and how important it is to learn not to pay. About how our marriage is not a piece of paper in a magistrate's office or candles in a gazebo, but the ability to put an end to it at the right moment. Not in the correspondence of a family chat, in ourselves. When we lay down, he held his breath for a second, and in the darkness I heard, "I chose us, and I will choose every time, even when it is difficult, especially when it is difficult." It was the best oath of all that were heard today. I closed my eyes and felt how evenly and calmly the chair of the bride at the exit suddenly rose from its place and moved to the window. Where there is light, where our faces are visible. And if ever the familiar bell rings again, sharp, insistent, like an alarm, I know that we now only know how to open the door that leads into us. The rest, let them stand outside.